Good morning. It is Saturday, October 28th at just before 8 in the morning. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on what I call scanning, spelled with a Q, Sqanning. If this is your first time here, scanning, as I define it, is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. It's that simple. All we do with scanning is release muscular tension. Make a fist, 3, 2, 1, release. Squeeze your hands together, 3, 2, 1, release. The foundation for this technique is a book by Thaddeus Golas, Golas, called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, in which he describes two basic processes in the universe that define the entire universe, including everything you see, hear, think, feel, and do, as well as yourself. That is contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion, release. Everything in the universe is either in a state of contraction, expansion, or vacillating somewhere between the two. So when you begin to look at the universe that way, you can begin to assess where you are on that contraction, expansion continuum at any given moment in your life. What I discovered is that when I was most unhappy or felt the most badly was when I was overly contracted. And we'll describe some of what that is soon. But what I found is if I could expand, I would feel better. What you want in life is a balance of contraction and expansion. What is contraction? The bringing together of thoughts, materials, ideas to advance an agenda, to create something. Our body is a contraction, the bringing together of cells and molecules to form bones, flesh, blood, brain. And the ideas we have, our theories about who we are, what we represent, what our belief systems are, how we interact with other people, these are all contractions. So we do a lot of contracting. Our life on Earth is, in fact, a contraction, which will at some point, it could be a million billion years from now, dissipate, expand, and become dust, and then maybe perhaps reform to form something else. But that's the basic premise. So if you move between these two states, and if feeling bad happens when you are overly contracted, then what you want to do is to learn how to expand. So what I discovered, and what this technique is based on, is the idea that the muscles, not the mind, not the brain, the muscles themselves are a great guide to bring yourself into a more expanded state. Because the muscles can only do one of two things: contract, squeeze your hands together, and expand, release. They have a binary foundation. So if they can either contract or expand, clench or release, then if we can use the muscles to release and get our body, move our body into a more expanded or released state, we can become more expanded. So that's all this technique does, is use the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve this expanded state. In an expanded state, if a contracted state is thinking, processing, worrying, doing, working hard, then the opposite is expansion, releasing, letting go, doing nothing, being open, available, permeable, free, joyful, accepting. So what we're going to do in this next half hour, is work to expand. Before we get to the actual muscular release, we're going to start with what I call the preliminary phase of scanning, and that's simply a series of deep breaths followed by 15, 30, 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And if you think of what I'm describing, you'll begin to understand why these are expansive steps. Everything we're going to do in this session is to move us into a more expanded state. Deep breaths are expansive by nature. When you are contracted, you are indeed holding your breath. So we're going to reverse that. We're going to also sit in stillness, because stillness is the opposite of activity, which is a contraction, an intention to do. And then we're going to also be perfectly silent, because words, thoughts, ideas, and the expression of those ideas, words, thoughts, philosophies, arguments — these days there's a lot of arguing going on — are contractions. We're thinking, we're putting together thoughts and ideas. So when we are silent, we've stopped that contracted process. So everything we're doing is going to nudge us into a more expanded state, beginning with these preliminary steps. So let's just start. We start by taking 3 deep breaths, as deep as you can, followed by 15 seconds absolute stillness and silence. Deep breaths, stillness, silence. And when you sit in silence and stillness, be as absolutely perfectly still as you can to send that clear signal to your very being that we have stopped doing everything. 3 deep breaths, 15 seconds absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Now just sit for 15 seconds in absolute stillness and silence, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. Just sit for a moment and register what, if any, changes you feel from those simple, deep breaths, stillness, and silence. And if you could imagine that in life there are hundreds of things that you might say, attached yourselves to: thoughts, worries, concerns, obligations, bills, relationships, jobs. These are things you have attached yourself to. You are contracted. You are holding on to them to manipulate them, to make them work in your favor or someone else's favor. You have an agenda. Well, what you're doing is holding. That's a contraction. So as you begin to expand, you begin to let go of all of those things you've been holding on to. You begin to detach until you are left floating and free. When you are completely attached, you have let go of your sense of time, of your name, of your sense of self, of your sense of others. You're floating free. You're in a state of nothingness. That's when you've completely detached. So that's the direction we're moving in. Now, you can't live there. You've got to go back to your life, to your doing, your thinking, your relating, your building. But what we're doing is we're bringing balance into our life. If we were overly contracted, overly attached, we are detaching, we are releasing into a place of nothingness, emptiness, openness, floating free, until we have a combination of both, which is a balanced life, and we are centered. So we've begun that process. So now we're going to do an even further expansion. We're going to take 5 deep breaths, followed by 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. So you're bringing yourself further and further into this expanded world, this expanded state. 5 deep breaths, 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Last one, deepest yet. 30 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. So what we're doing with the practice of scanning, and I recommend you practice as much as you can. I try to do at least an hour a day, but if you could do more, that's great. If you can only do less, if you can do only 15 minutes, 5 minutes, that's still beneficial, because you can't contract and expand at the same time. Any amount of expansion, any amount, a simple deep breath moves you into a more expanded state, and you have begun to reverse the contractive process. So any amount, I really emphasize that, especially for people who are just starting this practice. Don't be discouraged if you've only got a few minutes or can only do it once a day or once every 2 days. You've begun to literally retrain your mind to understand that expansion is of equal value to contraction. We tend to put a significant amount of value into contraction. We only feel successful, we only feel good when we are doing, when we are thinking, when we are worrying, when we are building, when we are making money, when we are defining ourselves or building our brand. Those are contractions. And what you need to begin to understand through this training, and it's literally a retraining. I'm 68 years old, and I'm still working very hard to retrain decades of habit of teaching, which has taught me that doing, thinking, worrying is the way to achieve. I'm still trying to retrain myself to understand and really feel, really believe that doing the opposite, letting go, doing nothing, being empty, is of equal value. And so I do this every day, and slowly but surely I'm beginning to understand that they have equal value, and this has now begun to take on a great deal of importance in my life. Even though it feels like, you may feel like you're not accomplishing anything, you're not getting anything done, well, that's the point. You're doing nothing. You've come to a place of emptiness, and you'll begin to value that, especially when you begin to experience what it is to be expanded and how peaceful that feels. You'll understand that you need that as a balance to your contraction, and you'll want to do it more and more. Let's go even further. The last step in this preliminary phase, we're going to do 7 deep breaths, 7, followed by a full minute, 60 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. And if you find this challenging, I agree. It is. To sit in absolute stillness and silence, even for a simple minute, if you're used to doing, can be challenging, but this is what you're learning, that it has great value. You'll begin to feel that. 7 deep breaths, 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Here we go. Last one, deepest yet. 60 seconds, absolute stillness and silence. Don't move a muscle, but continue to breathe. Deep breath. And again, just note what, if any, changes you feel simply from taking deep breaths and sitting in stillness and silence. For me, and each of us is going to have our own unique experience. Each of our bodies, although we have similar basic structures, arms, legs, skin, lungs, heart, breath, each of us has a different, unique experience. So find out for yourself. I could never say how you're feeling. I could never possibly know. I know how I feel. You will know how you feel. But study and see what changes you're experiencing. For me, there's a sense of detachment. I suddenly feel detached from all the worries I was holding on to, from all the physical activity I felt I need to participate in, the movement, the shifting around, the planning. I've detached. I've come to a place of, you might say, aloneness. I'm by myself. And if you have a concern that, well, if I let go of these things I've been working on so hard and thinking so hard about, that I'll lose them, trust me, they'll be there when you come back. You're only taking a moment. You might say taking a moment for yourself. And that can be difficult to do. It can be difficult to detach from the news, from our obligations, from our career, from our money, from our relationships, because we feel they are what hold us up, and that if we let go of them, we will collapse and drop and fall. But what you learn through scanning is that's not true. You can let go of everything, come back to yourself, and then re-engage. So again, when you discover that, when you're experiencing that, you're going to want to do that more and more, because this place you go to when you're expanded is very peaceful. It's very quiet. It's very self-sufficient, very self-satisfied. You will feel very content, because you will instinctively and physically understand that you can be completely isolated from all these concerns and still feel of value, still feel alive. In fact, if anything, you feel more alive, because all you experience at that moment is your heart beating, your breath, your sense of skin and the air on your skin, the sounds in the room. That's your fundamental self. And we lose touch with that. So when you reconnect with that, it's very empowering, and it feels very, very satisfying. We instinctively want to do that. We do that all day. We want to feel. We lose touch, as they say, with ourselves. And we do lots of things to try to feel, to reconnect. And you can only imagine all those things we do. But this is a very natural, simple way to come back to yourself. So that's the preliminary phase of scanning. Deep breath, stillness, and silence. If you do nothing else, if you take nothing else from these sessions, I hope you will remember that a simple deep breath can bring you into a more expanded state, and you will do that. So we're going to now proceed with what I call the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is, as I described earlier, the incremental release of muscular tension. I guarantee you that whatever you're worried about in life, whatever is happening in your life that may distress you or make you feel bad, if you put your full concentration into the release of muscular tension in any muscle group in your body, anywhere, you can start anywhere, full concentration, and repeat that throughout your body, full concentration, all your worries and concerns will recede into the background. I don't really understand why, but this is what I discovered, and it works. Put your full concentration, no matter what your mind is telling you, no matter what your worries are, no matter what the situation, no matter how illogical it seems at that moment to simply focus on muscular release. Trust that releasing muscular tension will bring you into a more expanded state, and all your worries and concerns will recede and dissipate and float away. This is what I discovered, and it's a miracle for me. It's really helped me, and I hope it's of value to you, and that's why I teach it. So let's begin. We're going to first of all start by squeezing your hands together. That's contraction. That's what that feels like, muscular contraction. Remember, the muscles can only do one of two things, contract or release, and they can't do both at the same time. Once you've started to release or expand, you've stopped contracting. So we're going to use that binary function of the muscles to guide us into a more expanded state. So squeeze your hands together. On my count, release. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. You just reverse the contractive process, and you have expanded. Minuscule amount, incremental amount, but you have expanded, and it's very important that you understand that for this technique, even the smallest amount is of value. We're going to start with the first of what I call the 8 muscular zones, and you can break your body up into any zones you like, but this is the way I conceived it for me, and you can follow if you like. Zone 1 is the face. On my count, I want you to release all the muscular tension in your face. Just turn off all the muscles and let your face just slouch. 3, 2, 1, and release. That's a fun one, because when you look in the mirror, your face just kind of goes dumb. You've stopped trying. You've stopped expressing. You just let the muscles go. You have incrementally released muscular tension. That's the core of scanning. That feeling of this to this, this to this. This is what you want to get good at. If you were learning to play a piano concerto and you had to learn to play those notes, well, for scanning, what you're learning to do is to release muscular tension. It's going to be your go-to place for whatever issues you have in life. Whenever you feel bad, and you can trust this works or not, you can try and see how it works for you. But believe me when I say that if you release muscular tension incrementally throughout your body, it will bring you to a more expanded, more joyful, more peaceful place. That's the theory. It works for me, and I hope it works for you. So let's continue. The face. 3, 2, 1, and release. And really concentrate on what that felt like. Now, you may hear all sorts of rebellion coming from your mind. I'd rather think about this or that. I'd rather be doing this or that. This is the struggle you'll be up against. Yourself. You're up against yourself and your contractive habits. The challenge, I always say, of scanning is starting, facing that voice in you that says, I must constantly do, I must constantly think, I must constantly define, I must constantly judge, I must constantly take action. This is the part of you you're up against. But through training, you can strengthen the opposite part of you, the part of you that says, of equal value is release. The face. 3, 2, 1, and release. Great. We move into zone 2, which is the top of the head. If you don't really understand how to release muscular tension in the top of your head, well, just think about it. Even thinking about expanding or releasing is expansive. Even the attempt. So again, it all counts. So if you're frustrated, have patience. Be persistent. This is the training that is scanning, getting better at pushing past that resistance. The top of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. You may feel your brow relax. Zone 3 is the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the back of the head. 3, 2, 1, and release. I must tell you that I want to scan, but I always face tremendous resistance from myself, and I've been doing it for years. So don't be surprised, but take that resistance as an excellent sign that you are working against your own contraction. And it's up to you to bring yourself out of that into an expanded state. You're literally at war with yourself in that moment. But at some point you will pass through, the body will relent and give up and let you go there. It can take 5 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour. But keep relaxing that muscular tension and you will get there. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. There you go. Back of the head, 3, 2, 1, and release. And I will tell you that contraction is very seductive. And when I say seductive, it has a tremendous pull. We are trained through habit or just through life experience to move towards contraction, to think, to worry, to talk, to be active, to do, to argue, to make, to build, to attempt. We're trained. It's a very powerful force. It's our go-to solution for whatever issues or problems we're having. So you're up against that very seductive force that is contraction. It has an appeal because it makes you feel like you are doing something, like you're fixing your problems. Worry is a way to try to fix problems when you can't actually do anything. It's very seductive. So again, you're retraining yourself to go against that instinct and to learn and to understand that when you expand, you actually solve all these problems much more effectively because you've cleared your mind. You can approach these things with an open, clear, calm mind. Zone 4 is the neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. One of the scariest things about scanning and expansion is that it opens you up to all the feelings that you have been holding inside. We tend to hold our feelings as a means of getting through the day. We hold our breath, we hold our feelings. When you sit down to scan, you're basically saying, I'm going to let go of that vice grip and let all those feelings emerge, and some of us don't want to have those feelings. It can be scary. It's amazing how frightening just sitting and experiencing what's going on in you can be. It can be terrifying. One of the hardest things in the world for me is to lie down at night, turn off the light, and try to go to sleep because there's nothing around me to distract me. There's no internet, there's no television, there's no book. I just have to face myself, all my worries and concerns. That's not always pleasant. So we are reluctant to let go, to sit in stillness and silence and let all those things emerge. Here's the thing though, when you let feelings held are very dangerous and can be very destructive. We hold them because we're fearful of them. Feelings released, while very unsettling initially, once they're released, they're free, they're harmless. So if you can move past that fear, and that's all we're doing is moving past that fear, let those feelings emerge, you will move into a place, as I said, of stillness and calm and nothingness. So I'm just kind of, I guess in a way, warning you, as if you didn't know already yourself, that you will experience a great deal of resistance from fear. Just move past it. The neck, 3, 2, 1, and release. Moving into the shoulders, zone 5, 3, 2, 1, and release. Take a deep breath. And again, pay attention. What's happening? How am I feeling different? As you study this process, just as you study a song you want to sing, as you learn the lyrics, as you learn the melody of scanning, and you understand it, you will be that much better at it the next time you approach the process. You will understand it. You'll know what to expect. You won't be surprised by your resistance. You will understand the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which is an expanded state, how wonderful it feels because you've been there and you're going to want to return. Zone 6 is the chest, stomach, front of the waist, what I call the plate of armor, the emotional plate of armor. 3, 2, 1, and release. That's all it is. All scanning is 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. That's all it is. At its core, all you're doing is scanning through your body, releasing pockets of muscular tension. Zone 7, down the back, past the waist, and into the pelvic region. 3, 2, 1, and release. You're also building a consciousness of your body. Not only what's going on in your body, you're paying attention to that, but the consciousness that you have the ability to manipulate, to change its state, to change your physical state. You have the ability to release muscular tension. You may feel, I don't know how to do that. I don't even know what that would feel like. Well, that's because you're just beginning. You will begin to understand what's required. And I always say, do this. 3, 2, 1, release. That's all you're doing, but you're going to do it in your pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and release. And if you felt that release, you have scanned. And practice of scanning is getting better and better at that. Finding pockets of muscular tension and releasing them, which brings your body, your very being, into an expanded state, which affects your mind, which, like a muscle of sorts, holds on to obsessive, worrisome thoughts. But when it relaxes, just like the muscles, it lets go of its grip on those thoughts and they simply float away. And you simply forget that you ever had them. And you are clear, calm, empty, permeable, calm, joyful. The pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. And again, the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, and release. Deep breath. Zone 8, the final zone, is down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. Taking the time to actually experience what your feet feel like. And on my count, you're going to release whatever muscular tension you can in your feet. 3, 2, 1, and release. The feet, 3, 2, 1, and release. You're teaching yourself that you have this ability, you have this control. We all can make a fist and release it. We all can scrunch up our face and release it. We all can lift our shoulders and drop them. But the other parts of the body, we're not as familiar with. How do I control the muscles in those parts of my body? Well, you can. You can through practice. And just think of how wonderful it will be when you become an expert at this, to at any given moment in your life, when you're concerned or worried or just feel bad or confused or you don't know what to do, to say, well, I can scan. Sit down for a moment, take some deep breaths, sit in stillness and silence, and begin to release muscular tension. And know that doing that will take you into a calm, clear, peaceful, relaxed state. A state different from anything else you do all day. A state that is the opposite of what you've been doing. A state of non-doing. You can't live there. You have to work hard. You have to go about the business of your life, which is contraction. But you can bring balance into your life so that when you are overly contracted, you can bring yourself into a more expanded state until you are centered or balanced. And that's all we're doing here. If you have a full life and you have ways of solving problems and that works for you, that's fantastic. Everybody has it. But here's an additional tool you can add to your toolbox, which may or may not, depending on how this resonates for you, help you. It's helped me tremendously. And I struggle every day with my contracted mind. Every minute of every day. My mind is looking to contract, to think, to worry, to do, to assess. There's a lot of problems in the world right now. I find myself, again, it's a very seductive contraction, trying to think, what should I do? What should I do? How can I do it? Very contractive states. That's all right. That's life. But if I want to bring myself into balance, I have a tool now, muscular release, which will expand me. I can let go of all these attachments to all these worries and concerns. And I can come to a place of nothingness, emptiness, stillness, silence, where I have a much clearer perspective of what's going on. I have the realization that I really don't need to engage at all for 5 minutes. I can completely detach and come to a place where all I feel is myself. I can feel my heart beating. I can hear the sounds of the room. I take a breath. I experience the tingling that occurs when you oxygenate your body. These are all wonderful feelings, and they're all right here. You have within you the ability to experience great pleasure simply through experiencing your own existence. Not to get too existential, but that is the core of it all. You're just here. God knows why. And there's a lot of pain and struggle in life, but there's also a lot of satisfaction in being here, in being a human being. Tremendous satisfaction. It feels great to be alive. Not always, but it can feel great. And it's only going to be for a short while, so you might as well enjoy it as much as you can. Take that moment to experience yourself. As I said, you can't sit there all day just thinking about yourself, but for a moment, a few moments a day, it really brings you into balance. And it's all done through the simple act of muscular release. Again, I don't understand it. I stumbled upon it. When I found it worked for me, I felt like I wanted to dedicate a large portion of my life to the practice of scanning and to sharing the practice of scanning. Muscular release. Incremental, because any amount counts. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, and release. That's it. Take a deep breath. And that's it. All I do in these sessions is review the technique at its most fundamental. It is deep breaths, stillness and silence, and the release of muscular tension. That's it. If you can remember that, you've learned it all. Practice. Practice. The hardest part isn't the practice itself. It's for getting yourself to start, to getting yourself to make this a part of your day. But as I said, once you experience how wonderful it feels to expand, you're going to want to do it more and more, even though, as I always say, starting can be very challenging. You're up against yourself, but you can win. So that's it. It's called Sqanning, Sqanning. As I define it, a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension, scanning your body looking for pockets of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. I'm going to post this on my Facebook page for a few hours. I will also permanently post it on the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning. Do a search, you'll find the page. It will have this session and many, many previous sessions. All sessions, though, are basically the same. Sometimes I think of just deleting all the sessions except for that day's sessions because they're basically all the same. Every day is different. How I talk about it, how I approach it, how you hear it. So I think it's good to reconnect with a fresh session every day. Not necessary. There's also a Sqanning YouTube page, Sqanning, where the sessions are posted there. I hope this is of value to you. Again, it's very simple. There's no book to read. There's no lecture to attend. There's no class to pay for. It's just simple muscular release. So, that said, have yourself a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.